So Rich, while we're waiting, um, like if you're a billionaire, can you just call up the NBA or and say, "Hey, who's for sale?" Or do you hire, say, Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley, and they have some kind of sports division that does these things? How does that work?
I don't know for sure. My guess would be that the NBA has some sort of internal mechanism or people that help facilitate these things when there are, clubs up for sale. Obviously, the owner's choice on who they sell it to, but I'm sure just with the dollars involved and the necessary ultimate approvals that the NBA is doing some due diligence, at least some mild due diligence on the front end. So
Well, they have to, right?
it's a lot of money. I mean, it's what was it, over 400 billion. So
No, I thought it was 4 billion.
I mean 4 billion. Or no, wait, no. It's
Come
hold on,
on,
let me get
let
that.
those fingers fly on the keyboard.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, what am I thinking? 4 billion. It's 400 million is what, that the Suns were worth like 10 years ago, is what I was thinking. So crazy the values of professional sports teams. I mean, honestly, you could make the argument, you look at just asset classes and anything, buying pro sports teams right at the top of the heap.
Yeah,
And where are you, Rob, on December 23rd?
I am. I'm in the middle of the forest in the Sierra Nevada mountains near Lake Tahoe.
Is that where Sierra Nevada Pale Ale comes from?
Supposedly,
Can you fresh bottle some for me? You can send it to me with one of the Nolan Ryan rookie cards for my.
actually, I think Sierra Nevada Pale Ale comes from Chico, California, which is in the Central Valley. But they snagged the name, which was a very good move on their part. So,
It's the best selling. Everybody talks about IPAs in America and the wave of IPAs. It's the number one selling, at least last time I saw, IPA in America. It's very average. I mean, it's not bad. It's good. It's but
they have while we're warming up to mortgage conversation here, the somebody who's done a masterful job of marketing is Sam Adams, which you think it's some home crafted, homespun, beer, ale, with guys with beards and burly arms, grinding out hops or whatever they do to hops. But I mean, Sam Adams churns out millions and millions and millions of bottles a day. It's a huge brewery. So they've done a good job of marketing themselves as something that maybe they're not quite.
in the
So
chat, I see Bell's Two Hearted number one. I love. That's one of my favorite beers. And Sam Adams, to me, it's funny you bring that up. I've said for many years is the most overrated beer in America. It's not bad. It's just but they market well. I guess they market that it's a higher class when really it's not. So
yeah. Anyway, and what's the temperature right now in Twinsburg, Ohio?
it's the official temperature has been right around zero all day, but it is just howling wind and rained before it started snowing overnight. So it's just a icy mess. And yeah, the real feel is like minus 20 something.
Yeah.
So well, happy Friday, everyone. Rich Swerwinski with the Mortgage Collaborative here with the final 2022 edition of the Rundown with Rob and Rich, where we take you into the weekend by running through the week that was in the mortgage industry. And as always, pleased to be joined by esteemed colleague and co-host, Rob Chrisman. Rob, it's been almost like 2.5 years we've been doing this now, I think.
Uh Definitely two, maybe 2.5. I don't know. But time flies, right? When you're having fun.
Time flies, yeah. So
So a lot has changed. I would say you could sit here and argue whether we're still in a pandemic or not. Maybe we'll be in a pandemic the rest of our lives, but we've basically emerged from COVID, and I can walk onto an airplane without a mask, which is nice. Whereas before, I think the whole webinar, Zoom calls, Microsoft Teams, and so on really sprang out of people being in isolation and needing to communicate with one another. And some of that has stuck, and some of it has evaporated as people have gotten together again. You know, um, and so this is stuck. Fortunately, I think we provide a relevant, entertaining uh, venue for people, to some extent. As long as we don't, start cursing and swearing and showing dirty pictures on the screen here, we'll be okay.
My goal with the show always has been to save people time, to try to get them outside of their silos, to hear what's going on more broadly in the industry, and you know, arm people with some information and talking points they can use over the weekend or the next week when talking to people. And you're right, it started kind of during the pandemic. It was the, let's try to figure this out. We started this show, was right during the crush of the volume in that fall of 2020, if I remember correctly, and people were just trying to figure it out at that point. I mean, it was just, the volume was accelerating that first pandemic year, after the original kind of fear factor month of April and early May, and the volume just picked up and picked up and picked up. We got into that fall of 2020, and lenders were just completely inundated. The technology was not quite there yet. And that's the one thing I hate about this. Like, if you would ask mortgage lenders, like, to sign up, people that own mortgage companies, or, own companies that are members of TMC, would you sign up 3 years ago? This is how the next 3 years are going to go, just from a business perspective. Like, anybody, I think, would have signed up. 2 amazing years and one horrible one. But the people part of it was the tough part for me. It's just, the technology wasn't quite there. We just saw this huge influx in and out of just humans into our industry, and that's always just sucks when that happens.
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't disagree. So go ahead and unleash both barrels on Matt Ishbia, Rich. What
I
do you
mean,
what do
right,
you
we gotta
really?
say, yeah, I mean, Matt Ishbia is, he's in the process with his brother of buying the Phoenix Suns. So a mortgage company guy. Yeah, Rob, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, isn't it his own money? I don't think United Wholesale's buying it, right? It's Matt and his brother.
Yeah, no, it's not United Wholesale. It's completely separate, which he's put out a statement saying nothing will change. And but it's all his money from the windfall of taking the company public, at the exact right time. So
Yeah, great timing. I don't. People say, well, he's gonna have his hands full. Yeah, he's gonna have his hands full. I think the other team owners, like Dan Gilbert, for example, um, they everybody has their hands full in terms of running a business or running a sports team or trying to do both, or in Dan's case, have multiple businesses and channels and so on and so forth. It's hard to keep track of rock, the whole rock industries, and renovating downtown Detroit and so on and so on. So Matt will be busy, I'm sure, but and now the NBA has to approve it. Is that how that works?
yeah, I mean, it's got to. I forget how many owners have to vote to approve it, and exactly what the due diligence process is. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Like the initial stories that have, like, the fluff pieces that have been written by the national sports media, are painting him as a sports guy, obviously playing for Michigan State, and making gobs of money, obviously, in the mortgage industry, and being a very hands-on guy. But buckle up, Phoenix, is all I gotta say. Strap the
Yeah.
seatbelt on
Well,
tight. I think the confirmation process, honestly, my guess is that's not going to be. It might not be a slam dunk. I mean, there's nowhere to go up from Robert Sarver, but whew.
yeah. I'm just in on changing gears, but keeping in the mortgage vein, Rich. Um, I think that the ski trip, there's an annual ski trip in Park City, Utah, which follows on the heels of TMC's March event. And in honor of that, I wore this. I've had this ski outfit for probably 25 or 30 years. It's kind of a disco retro look.
I like it. Yeah. I thought it was like a Colorado Avalanche or Aston Villa coat, but
No, it never got much skiing. So anyway,
well, it looks good.
so the 12 days of Christmas TMC went well. Are you seeing clients just entirely hunker down? I mean, what do you, it's my turn to ask the questions here a little bit. Are people just, they've been ready for Christmas for a couple weeks now or all month, and next week is going to be even deader than this week. And then spring will burst forth on January 2 or 3. And I mean, what are your clients saying out there? Are they just in hunker down mode?
Pretty much. I mean, honestly, it's like since we got that little drop down in rates in August, like businesses just, I've never really seen this before. Like August through December, like volume has gone down, 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 down. Like that almost, but we did get some reports this last week of app upticks, just with the tick down in rates. We're almost into the 5s, 30-year fixed. So I think the MBA application index week over week refis were up 6%. I mean, 6% over not great numbers, but it was the biggest 1 week increase in a while. The purchase numbers were still solid. So I think in general, it's like, people are, hey, we've had 2 good years. The people that their companies are run well and capitalize well and, are in it to win it. It's been two bad years, a third or 2 good years, a third bad one, but general optimism, I think, for next year. I think, the cooler than expected inflation data in November and December, you got record low delinquencies, you got record levels of home equity. You've got just a lot of demand out there from Americans that just want to buy homes, and a lot of things that could happen in 23 that could help trigger people that own them to list them with government officials in place that actually want to help the situation. So I do think there's a lot to be optimistic about. The smartest people I talk to in our network, prepared for the worst, but that general vibe. So
What about on the vendor side? Are you seeing, or you or Tom, maybe Tom can chime in here a little bit. I know we're seeing consolidation on the lender side, the most notable being this week with, Union Home and AmeriFirst out of Michigan, not the AmeriFirst out of Arizona, but maybe Tom can chime in on the vendor side. Tom, are you seeing, if he knows how to work his microphone, Tom, are you seeing vendors merging or acquiring, or what's going on in that sector?
Tom's probably Christmas shopping right now.
Tom tunes in and then gets a
grilled cheese. If he was on, he would probably say,
what would he say?
My favorite saying, like, follow the money, with any company in this industry right now, like who owns them, how well capitalized is the company, and how viable is their product in the next 12 months. Everything looks good in the demo, right? It's how many people are realistically going to buy that product in a bad market in the next 12 months. So that's tough question.
It is a tough question, especially for some of the bigger ticket items. 50 or 100 grand takes 6 or 8 months to roll out and incorporate and make sure it meshes with all your other systems. And I don't think there are a lot of companies right now who are in the mood to do something like that. So, we'll see. We're certainly, I wrote about the credit industry earlier this week, the CRAs, and I think, there's got to be some consolidation there. I mean, frankly, if you have that many companies dealing with 4.5 trillion of origination, and then now we're less than half that, something's got to give, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see what the final originations number comes in at for this year. As recently as not long ago, some were still predicting 2.3, 2.4. I saw. I talked to some people, said like the final number going to be a lot lower than almost anybody, had projected. So it's almost a third, honestly. Mortgage industry almost cut in third in terms of volume this year versus last year, a little bit more, but that's the easiest way I think to kind of look at it. So
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, we had the Union Home, so good for Bill Cosgrove. Matt Ishbia, as you mentioned, also in the headlines. And I think that we are seeing, at least on the lender side, a lot of um, companies saying, why should I buy Rich and Rob's mortgage? I'll just hire away their production people. And because, Rich and Rob, they've got all these leases, they've got, maybe they've got some lawsuits that I don't want to deal with. And so I'll just start hiring their people. And maybe that's friendly. Maybe I've contacted Rich and Rob to say, look, we don't want your lawsuits. We don't want your financial position. You don't have any servicing that interests us, but let's figure out how we are going to, move your production people into our operation in a non-acquisition scenario. And I think we're going to see some of that or more of that in 2023 than in the past, because these acquirers don't necessarily want all the baggage that some of these companies have. And so I can understand that, certainly.
yeah, without a doubt. I think you see that a lot of times where, somebody wants to sell a company, and then when you really get down to it, like what is really there? If you don't have servicing, or you don't have some sort of proprietary technology, that's really super, something else that makes you unique, which is tough in our industry. Like, what do you have? You have your best salespeople, because if you don't have them, you don't even have ops people, so yeah, I think a lot of people that are in the acquire mode, they're but I think part of that is, discussions maybe they've had with people looking to sell a company that, are throwing a number out there that maybe doesn't make any sense. It's tough, I ran a very successful Cleveland sports website for a lot of years and sold it to Fox Sports for, a number that it killed me at the end of the day. But I take a realistic look, like, hey, this is what it's worth. But I think for people who've owned a company for a long time, it's really hard, sometimes. So I've seen a lot of that this year.
Yeah. Are you, I think, and I'm having trouble seeing the chats, but I think there's might be some chatting going on with regard to loan programs and the inflation buster. And I keep being reminded, I mentioned it a couple of times in my commentary, but when we talk about inflation and the impact that it's having, a lot of people with fixed rate mortgages aren't being hurt necessarily by higher interest rates per se, because they're sitting there at 3.25 or 3%, or even 2.75 on a fixed rate loan, or that maybe they've got a fixed car loan or some kind of student loan, fixed student loan, whatever it is. And yeah, the price of macaroni and cheese is going up, and the price of restaurant meals is certainly going up. But the higher interest rates that have been prompted by the Fed, I think the impact of that is being muted by a lot of people who have fixed rate debt. And so I won't say it's a shrug, but I think that it's going to take longer than we thought for the Federal Reserve's moves to actually have an impact. The consumer, we keep receiving this economic news. We received a gaggle of it this morning. The consumer's doing pretty well. Depending on what you look at, you can look at leading economic indicators that sagged a little bit, but a lot of consumer spending is still okay. I won't get into the airport parking lot or the restaurants in the middle of the week, but things are still bustling okay out there. What are you seeing in Twinsburg? What's going on in downtown America, Twinsburg?
Yeah, which is really barely above middle class kind of town. And it's, I think the economy things are doing good. There are people and segments, I think that, that are struggling more than others. I think in general, like, inflation is starting to wear on people. And that's my fear of this. I think, the Fed has, kind of got things going in the right direction, and they waited too long um, and acted too late. But, my fear is just spending. I do fear that just, these record levels of credit card debt, and you're starting to see savings rates drop. And, if indeed you are right, and I agree with you that the Fed's on the right track, but it's a long journey, and things are still going to be expensive, more expensive than they otherwise should be for people to buy for a while. The lingering effects of decreased savings rates and increased credit card balances and, things like that, I think worry me more than the short term with the economy. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
in the
So
comments in
anyway,
the chat about the Rocket program, it's just marketing. I mean, honestly, Rocket Mortgage has been doing this since day one. They jacked the rate 3/8. They add $700 or $800 in non-third party fees, and and they promised this quick, seamless service with the inflation buster. They're just paying for the buy down. So whatever, if the 30-year fixed rate is 6 3/8 today, their 30-year fixed rate is 6 3/4. They're paying the first year down to 5 3/4 on their inflation buster. They're paying for that insurance difference the first year, but they're charging 3/8 higher in rate and charging $800 more in fees. So they're getting it back right there. It's just all it is a shell game and great marketing. But hey, that's how they grew to the number one mortgage lender in America, at least until recently, because Ishbia, I can't even imagine the party he threw when he knocked off Rocky. You know how bad they hate each other. And now Gilbert. And it's funny because those two very similar, in my opinion, good and bad qualities. But they're going to be rival owners. And Dan Gilbert, I think, is going through some health issues now. He hasn't been as public, but it'll be interesting to see if Dan Gilbert or the Gilbert family comments on this, because you've got now, Rocket and UWM both with bitter rivals. That'll be interesting.
yeah. Yeah. Marketing. I hearken, whatever hearken exactly means, but back to the Super Bowl when it was the push button, get mortgage. You talk about marketing and you talk about having an impact on the industry. When Rocket put that out there, every loan officer had to defend themselves and remind clients it's not push button, get mortgage. And it really had an impact on the industry. And obviously, United Wholesale, for better or for worse, has had an impact on the industry. Just like Donald Trump, for example, for better or for worse, has had quite an impact on politics. So there's a lot going on out there, and I think that the I think the industry, we as an industry, it wouldn't be such a bad time to take a little bit, take a week or two off and just kind of take a breath, because the frankly, the first quarter is not supposed to be much different than the fourth quarter in terms of interest rates and in terms of production and margin and revenues and so on. So I don't know what people are waiting for. Certainly, we don't want a recession, and I don't think we're going to get one anytime in the near future. We may eventually, and then you talk about a soft recession and so forth. So yeah, with a recession, maybe we see some lower rates. Rates have been behaving themselves pretty nicely here, but the first quarter is supposed to be, you know, not great, not great. We'll see.
Yeah, it's hard to I think because we've had two good inflation numbers in a row, because mortgage rates have dropped 6 weeks in a row to end the year here. I mean, we've had 6 weeks in a row where rates have dropped, that even if we get another better than expected inflation number in January, I don't think we're going to see some huge drop. We do have a rally now priced in the fixed income, and there is still, even if we get a third good number in a row, there still will be a lot of short, medium, and long-term risk for fixed income investors with inflation far from under corral. So in my opinion, right now is like a great time to lock in, honestly. Like if you have to buy or have to refi, I mean, we're in the low sixes right now. Because I do think Jan in Feb, and again, if the inflation numbers meet expectations or are worse or hotter than expectations, the upside risk to me is worse right now. But
Yeah, there's going to be just a lot of people grinding along, whether you are in marketing, whether you're an underwriter or processor, doctor or funder, loan officer. I had lunch with a loan officer earlier this week who said that the most loans they had ever closed in 1 month was 50. A typical month might be 15 to 20 loans. This month, this particular loan officer will probably close 5 loans. And I'm hearing that from more than one source. So it's going to be a bit of a grind. A lot of loan officers out there would be happy to close 5 loans right now.
Without a doubt. And I've heard a couple of smart people have said to me, like, never before, like, look at the last 90 days of closed loans. If you ever wanted a more accurate depiction of how good sales, how good a salesperson is, how good an LO is in the industry, look at their closed loans in October, November, and December. Comparatively to where they were in more healthy climates, so which, I think there's a lot of validity to that. And a lot of people just, I think, hunkering down and taking a pause before the start of a new year that hopefully is better. And again, there are a lot of promising things, and including the general direction of interest rates and inflation, which we have not been able to say that. This is the first time we've been able to say that in all of 2022 here in late December.
Yep.
So,
yep.
What else is we're winding down the year? Anything interesting in your inbox or your
No, my inbox is dead. Is very, very quiet. A couple people sending some comments about my opening paragraph today about Vincent van Gogh's ear. This is when he sliced his left ear off in 1888. A couple people commented on the conversions from office buildings to apartments and condos, which could pick up some steam next year. But it's just, I think people are ready for Christmas and the next week, and then take another look after New Year's. And we don't have a show next Friday.
Yeah, no show next Friday. We'll pick it back up. I think it's Jan 6 or whatever that first Friday of January is. But I wanted to do one more quick connect before the end of the year. And most importantly, to thank everybody listening to this, because grown a really nice live following for the show this year. The podcast following is phenomenal. We get a lot of after the fact views on YouTube. So developed a nice audience. We'll continue to work hard at making the show relevant, try to make it amusing. And always.
That's what I've been looking at. That's what I've been looking at during the show, by the way.
What is that? Are you like playing paintball right now or something? That's something I would love to do that I have not done.
Have you ever played? You've never played? Oh, paintball.
I have. It's been probably 10 years, but
I'll tell you, I've got some great paintball stories. Well, they weren't great at the time, but just people, that's a different crowd. That's a different.
Like the professional paintball person is terrifying. Yeah, I apologize to any of you in the audience that are that, but you get caught up in a game with. We would go with friends, and there was some not pros in the group, but nothing near that level. But I've seen those guys.
Yeah. All right.
Well, Rich, are there paintball pros out on the West Coast?
I don't know. There's got to be. Heck, there's the wiffle ball. I hear there's a whole underground wiffle ball world out there.
There is.
So anyway, well, hey, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, everybody.
Merry Christmas. I'll keep an eye on my mailbox for the Nolan Ryan rookie card you promised to send out to me. And it's been a great, fun year, as always, Rob. This has been therapeutic for me. It forces me to keep my finger on the pulse of everything going on in the industry and enjoy our conversation and the lighthearted nature of it. So,
yep. All right,
everybody. Happy holidays, trails. Happy New Year. We'll see you on the other end of 2022. Take care, everyone.
Good. Bye.